Hello, and welcome back to the MMA Split podcast, here to discuss everything that has happened in the world of mixed martial arts since we last spoke to you about a week ago. Lots to discuss. UFC Vegas 60. Going to be reviewing everything that happened in that fight card, talking about the main event. Pretty damn good card, you got to say, all in all. Some fantastic finishes, some really good fights. Bit of a shame with the doctor stoppage ending the main event, but it was a hell of a fight up until that point. And quite a bit of news to break down as well. The legend Jose Aldo retires from mixed martial arts. We'll be discussing that probably near the start of the show. Taking a little look at some UFC news as well, mostly related to Aspen Ladd's weight cut, and doing a very brief touch on the boxing with the Canelo Triple G trilogy happening this weekend. Although I wish it hadn't, and I think that's how a lot of Triple G fans feel after seeing how the fight played out. With that all out of the way, and Otis more excited than anybody, so excited than anybody to kick things off. Where should we? We'll start by saying, that threw me off, didn't it? I'll start by saying, please leave a like on the video if you are enjoying the content. Hit the subscribe button if you are not already subscribed. Feel free to leave comments, even if they're negative. All feedback is appreciated. And let me introduce, as always, our producer, Josh. There he is.
Do you see we got a negative comment last week?
I didn't know. We got a negative comment. That's so exciting.
Yeah, it's been a while. I replied, but didn't get anything back. I hope if you are listening today, feel free to leave more negative comments. Although
was it on our preview video or is it on our?
It's on the breakdown. Chimaev Diaz. Well, I say Chimaev Diaz. Diaz Ferguson would be more correct. Yeah.
Oh, we did get comments.
Bugger, what else was I gonna say? That doctor though, I hope he got a ringside position. I hope he got a 50k bonus for his work on Saturday, and it was a great main card. Prelims were okay. I like up until. Yeah, I say up until Jackson Sabatini, I was kind of like thinking it was like a 6, 7 out of 10 kind of night. But that main card, apart from the heavyweights, was fucking lights out. 5 great fights, one good fight.
Really good card. Really. Just read the comment. That's interesting. He definitely faked the glove touch. We are casual MMA fans. We don't pretend to be experts. If you were watching us thinking we are professionals, you were greatly mistaken. We have never claimed to be. We are assholes that often smoke weed and talk about fights because we've nothing better to do. Deal with it.
Right
I literally got a spliff next to me.
I don't really want to go back to the Chimaev one, but I did say I felt Holland should have dealt with that. He should have seen that coming, and the timing is cheeky of it. I don't know how much I really saw it as faking the glove touch, but it's impossible not to say he's a massive cunt for everything that happened leading up to that point, and it was only really those 2 minutes that he got right that entire fucking week. Fuck him.
Also, Mr. Mystery Man, although I do understand that wrestlers will use a jab to fake to set up a takedown, he didn't jab him. He faked tapping his hand. You don't throw a jab to somebody's open palm. But that's neither here nor there. To be honest, I'm surprised we didn't get a criticism of, it definitely affected our views because we didn't have the thumbnail up. And then obviously the thumbnail, it's my fault because I said I was going to work on one and then completely forgot. But it's amazing that obviously since we've been using thumbnails, we've seen like the difference it makes to views. And I remember coming back later that night because I was unfortunately out. No, it was at 0 views after 17 hours, and then eventually picked up when we got the thumbnail on. But it's definitely a lesson, and my bad because I had all day to work on it, and then I completely forgot and left at the point where it was too late.
I was just alright because we're going to be moving over to the new channel at some point soon, and at that point, that's like the watershed moment for us. We take this just a little bit more seriously.
That's very, very true.
And perhaps put a gun to Sly's head and just get him back in it, serious or otherwise.
And Mystery Man who left the comment, please don't feel offended that obviously I've brought it up directly. And And for the record, as I said in the podcast, I don't like Chimaev, so I'm massively biased. I'm going to infer the worst intention of every single thing that he does because I already don't like the guy.
Yeah.
In the same way that Josh will do the same thing over Colby Covington because he just does not like the guy.
McGregor, or
Conor McGregor.
A lot of people I don't like. I'm quite judgmental when you get down to it.
We are not objective on this show. Cannot stress enough, fans. That all out of the way. Jose Aldo retired. You knew a couple of days before I did.
I just saw. I think it's the same Twitter account you follow. Just gets reposted on Reddit. So that's where I saw he'd been removed from the fighter roster. And I mean, kind of saw it coming. I don't know. Like, how shocked are you? He had one fight left on his contract. He obviously the Dwalish Wheelie fight, huge setback. Already a fucking legend, 2-time featherweight champ. Once went undefeated for a decade, albeit there weren't like a tremendous amount of fights, but they were all big fucking fights. Beat the likes of Chad Mendez, Kenny Florian, Mark Hominick, Mike Brown, Uriah Faber. Just not just a legend, but a legend slayer. Fucking Frankie Edgar, bro. Totally forgot the Frankie Edgar fight. Jose, you will be missed. I wasn't always his biggest fan, but I always fucking respected him as a fighter, as a person. The way he was kind of just very brashly honest about his feelings in the sport. Didn't sugarcoat things, no bullshit, no lies. When he felt uncomfortable, he let you know, I felt uncomfortable. And that kind of makes me respect him more. Because the idea that you can be at the top for so long and handle the pressure so much better than other people did, while being very openly honest about how much you fucking hate the pressure. That really is something, you know? That's like Tony Soprano.
Also, I mean, a guy that always handled himself with a certain amount of, respect and humility. Somebody that, for the better part of 13, 14 years, stayed at the elite level of MMA across 2 different weight classes. Even in his last fight, was highly competitive. It was really more of a style matchup than anything else. Most people feel if he was to fight Aljamain Sterling, he probably would have beaten him. And I don't know if I disagree with that. So
I disagree, but
yeah,
doesn't matter.
It would have been an interesting fight either way. He had it mapped out. Clearly, he thought 2 fights left on the contract. I take the Marab fight. If I win that, I get the title shot. And then it's win the belt right off into the sunset. As soon as that was no longer the reality, yeah, he decided to call it a day. And to be honest, I'm kind of glad because he's calling it a day still being at the height of the sport rather than 5 losses in a row, everyone thinking he should retire, but he's not quite getting the message. Like the record, the legacy all gets tarnished. You know, this is a guy who stayed in this as long as he did because he wanted to become champion again. He's not going to be champion again. And he's retiring. And that's what he told Marab. I think that's the thing that makes it not the largest of surprise. He said, it's my last fight in the cage. And just like anything else, he does it his own way. He doesn't make a big song and dance about it. He doesn't put his gloves down in the octagon. He goes away and he makes his statement his way. And it's great to see all the respect coming out, from everybody. Obviously, you can't not. The guy's a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah. No, and an absolute fucking gent. I don't know. I feel like we should give more time to Jose, but haven't really prepared for it. You know what? Next week, all we've really got to do is, because we won't do a pick show for it, but we might have like a cheeky little bit on Bellator. But maybe we can do like another MMA episode. Give up a little bit more time for the King of Hio.
I'll tell you what, let's do like a ring resume style thing. Go through the WEC fights, go through, his standout UFC performances, that kind of thing.
Yeah, just suck the man's dick for a little bit.
Yeah, why not?
I'm up for it.
I'll tell you one thing, this isn't my idea, so I can't remember where I saw it, but I think it's a good sort of description of one of the real standout things about Jose Aldo. He didn't let the McGregor loss define him.
Nah. And that was just get caught, man. He just got caught. Came into the fight too emotional, just got caught.
Yeah. The rest is history. But Jose Aldo, you're taking a lot of damage, man. I hope you've got all the money that you need to
Man's
put
got his
your feet
burger
up and
shops as
chill.
well. It's a
It's
business,
not
man.
bad business. It's not bad business, burger shops. You just need a few of them to make money.
I think he has got like a fair few across Brazil. I'm gonna look this up for next week.
That would
Don't hold me
could
to
all
that.
be
I cleaned my grinders and milk and had a nice little tasty milkshake. I'm feeling it now. A little bit.
nice. Well, that sounds like you're in just the right frame of mind to talk about the UFC that we just had. Moving on to the UFC Vegas 60 card, headlined by Sandhagen versus Song. Not a lot of name value, but some really fucking good fights on this card, man. Good finishes.
Yeah.
Everybody brought it. There was entertainment all the way around. Only real disappointment is the way that the main event ended. And listen, it's not a doctor's stoppage from anything that was accidental. Corey Sandhagen used a technique, it worked to maximum effect. He then kept attacking that same vulnerable spot, and eventually it was going to happen. It is a shame that that happens at a point when the fight is 2-2.
Yeah, but the only reason it got to 2-2 is because Corey cut him. And it's not a case of like, wow, if Song Yudong didn't get cut, Song Yudong probably would have won this fight. It's more a case of if Song Yudong was able to avoid getting into a position where Corey was able to land so many elbows and so many jabs to the same area, because he's a young fighter, man, and experiences like this, apart from all the scar tissue, experiences like this are invaluable for him. I just hope, I don't want him to be Team Alpha Male's next Chad Mendes, that guy that is undeniably good enough to be a champion, but just
never gets past.
Kind of just falls short when you just can't quite get over the hump. Although Jose did grab the fence in their first fight quite badly just before he knocked Mendes out. Maybe that could have been the fucking day. Who knows? But anyway, Song Yudong looked fucking dangerous throughout, even only being able to see one eye. It was like fucking Bisping with power. It was beautiful. And
well, also, I think the annoying thing about it is that he had a plan that was clearly working very effectively in the early stages. Now, part of that was because Corey was really dedicated to trying to use his wrestling to then set up more striking later in the fight. But as soon as that cut happened, it made Song more aggressive, which I think made it a little bit easier for Corey to counter and kind of do his thing, because he suddenly knew that he had a guy that had to press the action and felt he was on the timer. But you can't say his stock doesn't go up, man. I mean, 24 years old, ranked 10, he's fighting the number 4 guy that we all know is elite. Absolutely elite. As an iron chin, is impossible to finish, apart from maybe submissions. And he looked fast. The boxing fundamentals were there. I thought his speed and
it wasn't just his durability, but it was his way to kind of roll and let some of the heavier shots glance. Because I was very impressed with his chin. Oh my god, I'm going to put that dog up for adoption. It's not my dog, it's my girlfriend's dog, but he might be gone next week, who knows. It was his ability to kind of take shots more on his terms a little bit. All of his movement was very good, particularly in the third and fourth round. Song definitely got too aggressive, but I wonder how much of that is the eye closing up and the way that naturally you're going to have a bit more adrenaline going through you when you got that much blood coming down your face. It's going to affect your gas tank a little. It's going to make it harder to really stay as calm as you need to stay to really ride out this fight with a tight game plan for 25 minutes. Sandhagen made it impossible for him past the second round to do that. Wasn't ever really going to be able to execute past that point as effectively as you'd want him to. And Jesus Christ, even, on the stool, going into the fifth round, Sandhagen's like having to psych himself up a little bit. It's like, just 5 more minutes. Just switched on for 5 more minutes. Let's fucking
He had to work hard, man. He had to work real hard. And the other thing is that I did think it ended up not mattering. And I'm certainly not saying, listen, that fight was only going in one direction. If the doctor doesn't stop it with the cut existing after round 4, Sandhagen wins that last round because it just felt like the momentum was going in his favor. All I'm saying is that had it not been for the cut, we might have seen a different fight. But I did kind of think I know why the logic was there. I know why he's working on it. I know why he feels he needs to add it to his repertoire. I felt like the wrestling was a miscalculation in the first round.
Well, it's impossible sometimes to get. You can't get everything right from the get go. You game plan against the guy, but until you're in there with him, there's always a feeling out process with certain things. I thought it was the perfect strategy though. Just throwing in that level change threat, even if it was horrendously unsuccessful. It was only unsuccessful in terms that so Sandhagen couldn't get him down and submit him. You give a shit. That's not his biggest asset. What it did do was it forced Song to keep his hands a little lower, be thinking about the sprawl. All of a sudden you don't have to feint and come in high or come in fast. All you have to do is really kind of feint and come down. And seeing as half the time your head movement's going to naturally be going that way anyway, it's just a good way to kind of try and take some of the power out of Song's shots and stop him from being able to land as effectively, which again kind of played to the fact that Corey, even though he did eat some big ones, a lot of them he could kind of take on his guard or he could kind of roll with it. Because Song will ring your fucking bell. I wouldn't want to be there with him for 5 rounds, and even after he's rehydrated and everything, I'm still probably about 80 pounds heavier than him. Just you wouldn't want to be hit by that guy.
No, I get what you're saying. I think I'm not saying that I think they underestimated him, but I think maybe there was an element of they thought that was going to be more successful than it was. Obviously, it still ended up working in the long run, but I really think Sandhagen thought he was going to take him down and have more success than he did with that. But he also adjusted well. And, I mean, really, you have to say, for me, Song's stock definitely goes up. I think Sandhagen gets back on track. It's not a win-win, but Song's 24 years old. It's not a loss that's going to really set him back that far. He was already stepping 6 places up in the ranks. He gets to go out with the whole, it was 2-2. There's the question mark, and the UFC will love to use if it comes to marketing him down the line. And we get to see Corey Sandhagen not sort of have to dip further down. And remember as well that Corey Sandhagen was coming into this with a huge amount of pressure. This would have been 3 losses on the bounce. He had to get this win.
Well, he responded well, and I don't think they really. I don't think the takedowns were there to truly change levels as much as they were to open up the striking, because every round he was just ramping up the takedown attempts. I mean, I think it tails off in the 4th, but each round there's an extra takedown attempt in there, and it's because the thing's working. I love how smart this guy is. I love how smart his camp is as well, to be honest. And it's not easy to spam takedowns against a team alpha male fighter, because they work those guillotines hard. And if ever you're going to get your neck snatched, it's coming in cheap and lazy on a single leg. You're not turning them or trying to throw them off balance on their hips and leaving your neck out a little bit to the side. It's easily done. Kind of saw that a little later on. Algio left his neck there for Feely for half a second. Feely doesn't have the same submission threat, let's be honest. But I thought a great game plan, brave game plan, executed very well. God damn, that was a lot of blood. Horrible cut. Is this the right moment to segue?
Yeah, I was going to say it was a night of bad cuts, man, because, it was a night of some pretty horrific moments, and we're going to break them all down.
Yeah.
Gregory Rodriguez.
Aspen Ladd had a horrible cut. RoboCop had a horrible cut.
Oh, we'll get to Aspen Ladd. Don't worry. I'm not sure if we do her cut at the end or if we do it where her fight was supposed to have been. I'm not sure which is most appropriate. We can decide as we go.
Either way, we're shitting on her at some point.
Absolutely. Gregory Rodriguez, man, that cut was savage, dude. And it's funny, Tom was up and I was texting him as the fights were going on. And I was sort of saying, he was asking me about Gregory Rodriguez and Chidi, and he was like, "Who should I put my money on?"
Neither. Don't.
And I kind of said
Stay
to him,
away.
I was like, "I have no fucking idea, dude. Like, I think Gregory Rodriguez should win, but Chidi comes out like people owe him money, dude. I mean, the way he attacks people since he's been in the UFC in the first round
Yeah.
is like it is what it is. It is what he is. It's a man who's in his 30s that got it all coming together after he had a few too many early losses to be kind of like an attractive prospect to a certain extent. He's got his chance. He's grabbing it with both hands, and he's going to fucking murder people. And that knee, man, I had to rewind it like 6 or 7 times on my rewatch because I didn't see it. It's just so perfect. You think it's a takedown, but he's just dipping and he just somehow gets that knee up there and slices the guy. I mean, they were talking
Well,
about his
Felder and
nose
DC
potentially
thought it
starting to droop.
landed on his mouth. They watched the replay. They were like, "Well, actually, he took that one on the mouth. I don't know when he got cut. It's how that knee just flies up his face."
It was nasty. And yet somehow this tough motherfucker survives that. And really, past the 3.5 minute mark, it was kind of more Rodriguez than it was Chidi. He'd swung that momentum back in the favor, and man, when he lands, it's not too much wind up, but you can tell the reaction he gets from people. It's just solid fundamentals.
Yeah.
He doesn't load things up, and he's not looking to necessarily knock you out with one shot. He's very happy to land a few, hurt you, set up the next transition. And on the ground, man, I think that was the big difference as well when it came to those
He
clinching
does throw the
situations.
hooks very hard. But what I love is with the straight shots is he knows when to go for him. I think both times he caught Chidi in that first round, Chidi was kind of off balance. And that second time in particular towards the end of the round where he actually knocked him down with it, you know, that's just beautiful MMA boxing. That is just the perfect time to throw that right hand. Nice and straight. He's kind of backing up. He's almost on 1 foot. Man went down like a sack of potatoes. I still didn't know going into that second round who was going to be hurting more though. Do you know what I mean? Like
I
Njokuani,
felt
he'd lost the momentum, but all he had to do, and he did hit that big open gash on the bridge of his nose a couple of times. I just thought maybe if he just opens it up a little worse, that's it. Good night, Vienna. Take the doctor stoppage, but that doctor,
I think
he, I like that ringside position. I like the way it went about it. He wasn't like, yeah, throw him to the wolves. Just had an educated conversation with the referee both times and didn't maybe needlessly finish the fight too early.
yeah, and I think that's fair enough. It's the kind of thing you'd usually see more in boxing. The ref saying, "Okay, I'll give it a minute. If I see the cut open back up worse or something, then I'm going to make the decision." MMA, it seems to be more like once the fight starts, it's kind of like, no, 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 we're not going to try and stop too many things for this kind of nature. Ultimately, I was really impressed with the way that Rodriguez mentally handled that as well, because he knew he had to be aggressive and he knew he had to put the pressure on. But at the same time, he didn't get too reckless. And you'd see a lot of guys in that situation go, fuck, my cut's bad. I need to just get the guy out. I'm going to charge at him and just fucking throw caution to the wind. And Rodriguez didn't. He marched him down. He picked his moment, started getting hit a couple of times, felt it bleeding again, picked up the pace again, but at no point was he ever being reckless. And I kind of have to say for Chidi as well, I think he didn't just sprint physically, but I think the adrenaline of hurting a guy, seeing him that bloodied up, I think he kind of sprinted that first 2 minutes, and it was always going to be hard to kind of recover physically and mentally from that situation.
Yeah. Well, we always thought this was going to be a who lands first kind of fight. We've seen RoboCop kind of ride through those deep waters before with Jun Yong Park. This was a lot worse. Probably hit a lot harder against the Iron Turtle. Probably a little closer to being finished. But in terms of having to contemplate going 2 more rounds with your face near enough peeling off, like someone's just undone the zipper between your eyes, it's horrific. If you haven't seen the picture, go look at it now, and then just for a laugh, send it to your grandma. I don't know. But yeah,
You know what? This wasn't my largest. What's the word? This wasn't my largest, like, not cringe moment. What the word I'm looking for? Squeamish moment on the
grimace.
card. Grimace moment. Yeah, this wasn't my worst one. We'll get to my worst one. There were three really bad ones. This cut was definitely number three. But listen, Rodriguez, he moves on. He's hard to finish. He's not that old, even though he looks like a 43-year-old man.
Oh, can I just ask, is the number one grimace moment the Giles Gosse fight? Because that was
I don't think
uncomfortable.
it is.
That was hard to watch. We'll get to,
No,
maybe we skip that one, to be honest.
yeah, maybe. No, for me, well, I'll get to them. It's the head slam and
Oh yeah, power bomb.
the mouth and the choke during the mouthpiece out, where fighter that we will talk about decides to try and cope with that by intentionally biting their own tongue. Which, when I was watching, all of the worst outcomes of that situation were going through my mind, and I was watching somebody not tap, and those outcomes were looking closer and closer to happening. We'll get to that fight.
Yeah.
We'll get to that fight. Let's move down the card. Let's talk about some touchy feely. Let's get touchy feely here. Let's talk Algio feely
Yeah,
because this is a fucking good fight, man. I mean,
it's a great fight.
how
If
how Feely did not knock him out with some of those head kicks that landed, I don't know. Bill Algio ate them like a champ.
he ate him like a fucking chump. What was with starting that blase? Because Feely was, kind of feinting and setting things up, and Algio was just waiting to kind of move forward and try and land a big moment. And as soon as he got like a little banged up, in the second round, he went back to trying to grow into the fight, trying to be intelligent and setting his attacks up. And Feely kind of went the other way as Bill had more success. But that first round, which obviously made a huge difference in the fight, Bill just almost didn't show up. And Feely, you're right, he was lucky not to get the finish in that one, to be honest.
Well, he was trying to do the whole Wonder Boy thing, wasn't he? And it worked for like about a minute. And then Feely basically realised, and the commentary that nailed it. They picked it up straight away. It's just like he figured, oh, I can't really reach you with my hands, but your hands are really low. You're not. This isn't your stand-up style. So I'm just going to keep landing these kicks that you've left me there because you haven't factored this in. You're not experienced enough. You don't know all the ins and outs of the stance yet. But Feely does. I don't know. He's obviously really good, but like you say, he can kind of get caught up in having a scrap. I think a little bit too much.
Yeah, he shouldn't have gone for that guillotine either. When he kind of had him sort of in a kind of choke clinch position, that was begging for knees. There's a lot of bad decisions. I don't know in that third round why he put his right hand down to try and stop Bill's right hand, because you can do a one arm rear naked choke. But I've never seen someone finish it with such a high body triangle. You really need to be a little lower and tighter on their body and really grab their shoulder. And Feely didn't really truly seem committed to finishing it. In fact, I thought it was a very interesting thing in how they were going to score that third round, given that Bill did all the damage with a man on his back in a body triangle position.
Well, the thing is, so he has the choke initially, and there's a couple of moments where it does look like he's got it locked in, but Algio defends really fucking well. But after the first two attempts, he manages to hook his right hand under. And Feely just kind of, like you say, he keeps thinking, oh, I can just lock it in with the one.
Feely actually takes his hand down first to kind of stop. In my head, I thought he was going to try and trap Bill's arm on that side, grab Bill's right shoulder, and then just squeeze. And I thought it was going to be a bit of a mistake because Bill did defend well, but he defended well eventually. Feely had that locked in with his hand behind Bill's neck, just like the perfect place to have it, before Bill was able to reach around and peel that hand off. He didn't start hand fighting for a good sort of 10-15 seconds. Actually, I need to go rewatch it and time it, but it felt like an eternity to me where he wasn't hand fighting. And Feely just seemed to be a little too high up on his back in that body triangle position to really kind of get the leverage and pressure. I mean, sometimes with the guys with the longer, skinnier arms, it's different body types. Some people can finish from odd spots, but it looks slightly less than textbook to me. It was one of those kind of rear naked chokes where 10 years ago, people would tap because they would just shit their pants when submission attempts got locked in. They didn't know any better. These days, people have seen enough people kind of ride out a rear naked choke, and people know how to defend properly in principle. And it was a weird one for me. I really didn't know how the judges were going to score that, because in my mind, although Feely had the position and technically had the submission attempts, it's kind of ambiguous in the way that it's like, you're going to score them for taking away a fighter's will to win, will to compete, and everything. You can't really make that argument. It doesn't say specifically like the longer the submission attempts being attempted, like going on for that would equate to like more points or more winning. More of a scoring position for that round, whereas it's very unambiguous in that we score damage. Bill was landing some good shots there and massively outstruck him in that position. I'm not saying that Bill should have got it, but I think it's a good discussion. It's interesting.
Well,
right?
just to cut you off, I mean, we have seen fights where the decisive round has gone. I mean, think Yana Kunitskaya versus Ketlin Vieira. They're 1-1 in the third round. Vieira has a back but doesn't do anything with it. And Kunitskaya spends the last 50 seconds of that round just landing exactly the same kind of shot that Algio's landing. That ends up giving her that round. So I think it's a massive argument. The only thing I'd say, when a choke's locked in, this is the difficulty with MMA. How do you score submissions? How many strikes does it take to equal a submission? How do you factor that into the equation? It's not an easy thing, but I did kind of feel like it was a 29-28 to Feely.
I didn't even score it. I was like, it was not 19-19 going into that round, and that third round, Feely looked fucking done. Even with that position, he kind of looked like he was fucking done, and that's very subjective. That's my interpretation on it. But I just didn't think it was a good look for the judges. I thought Bill looked like he was like fucking Captain America, like he could go all day. Just really, really didn't know how that was going to go. But in my own head, I was like, not touching it. It was actually quite tense for me when they read out the scores.
It's a good thing we hadn't. It's a good thing we hadn't done picks for this week.
Yeah, I don't know how I would have done.
I have no idea.
To be honest, I can't even be like, well, I was thinking about picking these fighters. Looking at it, I had no idea what way I was going to go. I was just going to wing it on the episode, and then we didn't do it, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, I probably would have picked Bill. I think I would have picked Robocop. But Pfeiffer Amadolski, don't know. Probably would have picked Anna Bosa. Probably would have picked a lot of people. Let's move down. We'll just touch on this quickly because it was a fucking beautiful knockout. But Joe Pfeiffer, I mean, that right hand that sat Amadolski down was brutal. I mean, full weight of his body through, sets it up with the jab. That was
not quite brutal enough for Tyone. He had to take a second to think about it. But I loved the poise. He wasn't Mahino Rodriguez. He wasn't, this is a walk-off knockout. He kind of stood there waiting for the ref to say, like, carry on fighting him. Or even, I think Chris has a bit of bloodlust. He was like, finish him. But, he kind of goes in and take one more shot. Tyone's like, yeah, no, he is done. He is definitely done. I'm not saying a bad stoppage or anything. I just, I like that he kind of took the time to kind of give him half a chance. And Pfeiffer was like, I will kill this man. So that was that.
It's a little tricky when you see fighters fall back and end up kind of down but sitting up against the fence. Because I think for the refs, a lot of what they look for in terms of diving in after a knockdown is how somebody hits the ground. And when you kind of end up in a seated position, it's not always obvious sort of how present you still are to a certain extent.
Yeah, do you remember the Ghost Pepper against Jim Miller? He just kind of fell funny and the ref was behind him, and he was like, out. Anyway, what a fucking classic Canelo finish, though. Like, he'd landed that lead uppercut earlier, but then he just goes, like, fake uppercut to set up that right hand. It was
nice.
I mean,
it was pretty nice.
Literally against the guy that's lost 4 fights in the UFC, and 3 of them, I think, first rounds. So...
But anyway, that's what you're meant to do.
You can only beat who's in front of you. Pfeiffer did look fucking nice on the feet.
And that's all you can do.
I like the guy as well. Is Pfeiffer interview? Pretty cool. Give the money to the birthday boy. He didn't get a bonus, by the way.
Well, mate, it's a fucking lot of bonuses to hand out on this card. It's not easy. They only give out 3 usually. I don't know how many they actually give out for this card.
Yeah, and
Let's talk
birthday
about
doesn't quite trump honoring dead brother. So
no. Uh, Tanabosa versus Nascimento Ferreira. Listen, I like Tanabosa. I actually thought he was going to win this because he tends to do better against bigger guys. It's the
it's because
smaller.
he has to. He's one of the smallest heavyweights on the roster.
I know, but it's either the really elite guys like Garn or it's an Arlovsky that gives him trouble. But this one is 229, man. That's too small for heavyweight.
Yeah, it's
He's
interesting,
6'2".
right? Because if you cut down to 205, you're dehydrating yourself to the point that the shots are going to do as much damage potentially as they would do at heavyweight. And I guess you kind of spare your body and your kidneys a lot more by not cutting weight. And you're going to have a bit of a speed advantage. So theoretically, with good technique, you can protect yourself better. But yeah, they never do like a 225 division because there's just not enough heavyweights, frankly, or light heavyweights to justify it. But he'd be perfect for something like that. Unfortunately, so would a lot of the more successful heavyweights. Stipe would probably slot right in there. Still,
That's very true.
Tanabos is a good fighter. Nascimento managed to make it ugly enough to steal this one away from him. But I do agree with you. Against the slower guys, that is a winnable fight in his book. Nascimento just basically made it a close fight for 2 rounds, and he snuck those rounds. So fair play.
Tanner rocked him in the second round. He just couldn't capitalize. It's a shame. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez put
Beast.
a motherfucking beating of beatings on Barrio, who I have to say there was a lot in the first round I actually really liked about what Barrio was doing. I thought some of the boxing combinations was nice. I thought he was making it really dirty with that clinch. But at the end of the day, Hernandez did not get tired. Just
He's a very
smothered him.
efficient fighter. I've talked about it before, that old philosophy of make them take 2 steps every time you take 1. But he really does. He times everything so well. If he's slipping or if he's ripping under a hook or something, then as he's coming back across, he's either going to pivot, put you up against the cage and try and find some elbows, or he's just going to take you down on an easy single leg or something. He's going to constantly make it an exhausting fight for you. It's not flat out, I'm just going to put my foot to the floor. He fights with such a calm kind of manner and intelligent way about him. Although Bosa did get his attention with a nice right hand early on in the first round that had Fluffy kind of going a bit more aggressive for a bit. At the same time, sometimes it's the right thing to do. No, Barrio hit Fluffy with the right hand, and then Fluffy...
He said Bosa.
Oh, sorry. And then Fluffy... just kind of basically came back and whiffed on a few shots that he loaded up on a little too much. But it was the right thing to do to get Barrio to back up, and then he was able to kind of work his magic again. Very efficient guy.
Head slam had the squeamish level.
That was nasty. That's the thing.
Followed by a neck crank choke. I was just like, that's not. This could be bad.
He knows what he's doing. He's always thinking about the most uncomfortable position you could be in, and then that's what he strives for. Shit, the dude submitted Adolfo Vieira. I woke up to Fluffy a while ago. I really think that a lot of not even just the winners, but I think a lot of the fighters from this card, it would be a fucking sin if their next couple of fights aren't all on pay-per-view main cards, in my opinion.
It won't happen, dude. They need more time.
Who needs more time?
Listen, Hernandez is 3 in a row. Pfeiffer's just got started. Andre Feely's just back in
I'm not talking about Pfeiffer or Feely. Actually, do you know what? Feely and Algio, maybe. Maybe they do deserve a pay-per-view main card spot. Fucking Hernandez, definitely. Njokuani and Rodriguez, both definitely. Song Yudong and Corey Sandhagen. I mean, shit, Sandhagen may even be headlining a pay-per-view main card.
Sandhagen's different. Song and Sandhagen are obviously different. But I still feel that these are guys that people, hardcores, I don't think casual people know a lot of these guys yet. And you look at the card that they're on, it's after a pay-per-view, that tends to be the lowest viewing numbers. I think that
It's
A
not so
couple,
much
yeah,
about who
but
watched it live though, Matt. It's about
the replays.
the highlights on ESPN. And the fact is, Fluffy's got a lot of highlight fodder now.
That's true. And it was a nice finishing choke. Very nice finishing choke.
And he's
We're going to
been
run through the prelims.
gone.
Sorry, one more sentence. You get.
I was going to say, Fluffy doesn't really shy away from fighting these hyped up monsters. Barrio's not someone that anyone really wants to fight. Even if you know he's better than you, you're better than him. He's still going to fucking put it on you. You're going to be in a fight. You're not just going to make him wilt. I mean, Jesus Christ. Fluffy had to basically break his neck to stop this man. Anyway, I'm done.
Okay, prelims. Just a quick sentence on all the prelims. We need to save some time for the assassination of Aspen Ladd. Damon Jackson. I did not expect this fight to end in a knockout. That
Well,
was the
I
last thing I
jinxed
thought.
it as soon as I said Grappler's Delight because I was trying to do the
Yeah,
Sugar Hill gang pun. But yeah,
it's a good pun.
Sabatini comes in. Shouldn't really be getting caught with a kick like that. It wasn't. I did think, Jackson's a longer fighter, so in the stand-up game, he might have be able to throw in a few interesting wrinkles. And saying, getting like kind of like a front kick KO or getting a good front kick shot that leads to the KO. That's not really how it played out. That was ridiculously close quarters. It's almost impressive he was able to get that shot off in such a short space. Great KO though, and fucking honouring his brother that died the previous week. Very emotional. Couldn't be happier for him. I was going to say the leech, but to honour his brother, it's Action Jackson until the next fight.
Works for me. Trevin Giles gets it done against Louis Koske. I will be honest, this is the only fight I have not seen. I fell asleep
Because of the fight?
after Luke. No, I went to bed. I fell asleep at I don't know, 3 minutes into the first round or a couple of minutes into the first round, and I woke up as Damon Jackson was walking out.
So this fight was awful. In one sentence, I guess I'd say hard pass. Let's just look at the stats. So across 15 minutes, Giles threw 46 strikes. Kosei threw 38 strikes.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just it's just shit performance. All right, moving on.
Loma Lukboni
Let's change it
defeats
to bone me, don't you?
Denise. I know every time. Denise Gomez, who I actually thought looked really dangerous. Almost got a couple of submissions. Walked through some fire. She got cut badly, but particularly in that first round, man, Luke Bonmi, that just purest Muay Thai style is so fun to watch. The kicks down the middle, that just absolutely, as soon as you strike, I'm throwing a counter back.
Yeah, she's kind of stuck with the same kind of game plan that she has when she fights bigger girls, which I like because it's like you want to keep practicing that. That's the division you're in, frankly, at your size. But she doesn't float around too much. She kind of finds her space, waits for the right time, and just kind of doesn't load up, but just goes with very decently hard shots every time. Real fucking pleasure to watch. I'm really glad she got this win as well.
Yeah. So excited to see what Denise Gomez has got, though, because I think there's potential there.
Yeah, I mean, shit, she earned a 29-28 on one scorecard, and I didn't think that was ridiculous. So, yeah.
Potential there. Trey Ogden, I've got to say, this was one of my favourite fights on the card, man. Biggest underdog on the card, fighting an undefeated guy. And I just thought he had the better game plan. Really well prepared, stuck to it, never stayed in one place too long, just kept doing what he needed to do, and it worked better and better as the fight went on. Once he started mixing some of the grappling in as well, it was just a perfect performance, man. Great to see.
Yeah, he was up against a hard challenge, to be honest. The way he had to kind of try and close the distance. Very effective with it. These Glory MMA fighters, they don't fucking disappoint. And there's Tim Elliott. But most of these Glory MMA, I'm kidding. I love Tim Elliott, but he's not a James Krause fighter, is he? No. Let's be honest.
Still fucking awesome, though.
Yeah.
This was my squeamish moment of the card. Agapova taking on Gillian Robertson. We talk about it. Agapova, I've literally said it different ways twice there, back to back, doing a Chael Sonnen. Agapova, she can look fantastic in there, and she can look absolutely terrible, and it's one or the other. This was not one of those things. She actually didn't look too bad, but they trained with each other, her and Gillian. before the fight, they're talking about Gillian kind of saying, listen, like, I know how this goes in the training room. I'm pretty confident once I get her to the positions I need to, this is my fight. And it kind of was. And,
Well, in
you
the
know, they keep
second round.
alluding. In the second round, she took a lot of elbows to the face in the first round, but she still ended up in the position she needed to be. First round, she was able to establish, I can get there. Once I'm there, this is my fight. I just need to walk through a bit of fire.
Yeah, I did think some of that though was a gap of her being like, okay, I'm, I think I've got an opportunity to really hurt her here. So rather than trying to cement a good position, or try and spin round, or take a stronger position here, or get back on the feet, I think I'm just gonna keep smashing her in the face and see what's up. And it wasn't a bad strategy for that first round. She definitely did bloody her up a fair bit. I think she probably had her a bit rocked. But Jesus Christ, Robertson's tough. She came back in a mean fucking way. And yeah, that is one of the worst chokeouts I think I've ever seen.
It was so horrible to watch, dude. She does everything that you don't want to see. As soon as she spits the mouthpiece out, I'm thinking, tongue, 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 tongue. And then the fact that she goes to bite her tongue as a way to try and like grit her through this, and you're just like, this is how people bite their tongues. This is really fucking bad. And then her face afterwards, you can see that her just like, it looks like her jaw was really clenched. I don't know what the damage is. She didn't bite her tongue off, I didn't see any blood, but that looks like it was bad. And there were a few finishes on this card where you looked at it and were like, not even finishes, moments. I suppose this was the only cringe moment, squeamish moment that was a finish, but
Yeah.
they don't call Gillian Robertson the Savage for nothing.
No, that was that was a great fight, great comeback in my books, and I'd say his next one was a pretty fucking solid comeback as well. Basharat against Gravely.
This was a really good fight.
Had a
Really good fight.
had a tough first round. Gravely has some power in his hands. He's a fucking handful. Jesus Christ, Basharat just showed his class. Rounds 2 and 3 were fucking beautiful. I'm a big Gravely fan, but after the first round, he just wasn't in this fight.
He just got outdone. Once he wasn't able to use his wrestling, and once he actually had to defend wrestling positions, it was a landslide. It wasn't, landslide's harsh, but the fight was only going in one direction, and Basharat's really fucking good, man.
Yeah, there were no 10-8s in there. There was just two very, very clear 10-9s. And yeah, Basharat is insanely good. I'm excited about Basharat.
Let's also say it's a problem with wrestlers as well. If a wrestler can't get takedowns and then gets taken down themselves, it's you see confidence go so quickly, so often.
Yeah, well, also a lot of energy sometimes spent on these things. Anyway, Gravely will be back. Gravely will move on.
Moves on.
But Basharat's gonna keep climbing towards getting a number next to his name.
Fighting undefeated guys isn't easy, man. Maybe they just haven't come up against a good opponent. Maybe they're a fucking prodigy. For Ogden, the risk paid off. Beats a guy who looked nervous on his debut. For Tony Gravely, he came up against a guy that in that division, he even said it himself. He's like, there aren't a lot of guys. That's my worst style matchup.
Yeah.
There's like two other guys that are going to try and do that to me. And he's got a point, so look out, Basharat. And Nicholas Motta gets a good win. Puts down Cameron Van Camp. I watched this one, but I can't remember any details of it.
Van Camp wasn't doing too bad, but the thing is, he cuts a lot of weight to get down to 155. I think he's 6'2". It was just he'd been rocked earlier, and then he kind of just almost catches a right hand, but the way the right hand just set up the left hook, he basically falls backwards into the fence and then collapses forward. It was a lot of fun to watch. I feel bad for Van Camp. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Motta, another one that got his ass whooped by A10 Jim Miller. Finally gets his first UFC win. So
really just goes to show how fucking good Jim Miller still is.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to suck Jim's cock, both figuratively on the podcast and maybe a little bit in real life. I don't know, but we have a lot of shade to throw Aspen Ladd's way.
Aspen Ladd.
Worst cut of the week.
Let's get this started. You've already missed weight a bunch of times. You're not even close when you miss weight. You've even had a main event fight that had to become a featherweight fight because of the fact that you couldn't make weight. You agreed for this fight to happen, and you're fighting Sarah McMahon, which this could put you within one fight of a title shot. So you're already in a position that I would argue you don't deserve based on your results and based on your performances and based on your misses on the scale. And yet the UFC still gives you this opportunity, probably because you told them you had some issues, you've got it all figured out, you're 100% making the weight. And it's not just that you missed, but the way that she showed up, what, 3 pounds over, 4 pounds over, not even close. She has that look on her face like she hasn't really tried. And you just kind of wonder, like, what are you doing here? Are you done? Are you just showing up and booking these fights you can miss weight and eventually they're going to cut you? Like, what the fuck are we doing
Yeah, I think the message she took from Chimaev's weight miss was, I guess you can fall ass first into better situations if you don't take the weight cut seriously. Very
I
fine.
know it's harder. I know it's harder for women to cut weight, but we've got a featherweight division that desperately needs people.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Why wouldn't you just fight at featherweight?
Pound for pound for most women, it is a lot harder to cut weight, and if she is, kind of on that side of like the spectrum where it's very hard for her to cut weight, then it's just so fucking unprofessional and disrespectful to your opponents to continue doing this.
Sarah McMahon did not call her out for this fight. Sarah McMahon wanted to fight other people in this division, but she took this fight because they probably told her, listen, you get this win, we're going to put you in that title shot consideration. And it's not a deep weight class, even at 35. So that's a realistic proposition, but she doesn't get that opportunity. She trains, she does her camp, she's doing everything professionally. She probably doesn't even get a paycheck. Or maybe the UFC chucked her some money. I don't know. But I really doubt that she's done anything more than maybe break even for what she paid her coaches at best. She doesn't get to move forward in her career, and Sarah McMahon's what, 40 years old? She hasn't exactly got time to fucking waste.
Like that.
You know,
McMahon, 40, almost 42. She's 42 in a week.
yeah. So, and I'll tell you this, she would have made weight. So it's like if the 42-year-old can make weight, considering it gets harder as age goes on, and you look at McMahon's build, if you put Aspen Ladd's build and Sarah McMahon next to each other and ask somebody which one do you think missed weight, nobody would point at Aspen Ladd. She has the figure that you would think makes it would be the lighter frame, but
Yeah.
uh,
It's a £2 miss, but it's persistently missing. It's I none of our coaches are going to be like, let's try and be a full-time featherweight fighter, because there's not really the opportunity and the money in that in the UFC right now. But you have to be changing something. You have to be doing something differently.
she's clearly not, dude. She's got the same, you know. I know she changed her coach after the whole 5 rounds of abuse situation, but if she's not looking like, if it's this much of an issue for you, you can't be looking at, okay, well, how do I change the cut? You need to be looking outside of camp. Okay, what do I need to do to change my body so it is able to fight at 135? And that means adjustments to your cardio regime, adjustments to your strength and conditioning regime, adjustments to your nutrition outside of just, okay, I've got to fight in 6 weeks and I need to get down to this weight. It needs to be like, obviously we talked a bit about Jose Aldo, but when he moved down to bantamweight,
she had even
it
longer
was an
because
entire lifestyle change.
They were supposed to fight back in August, right? So she's been in
So.
camp like the whole time. Trying to remember why it got cancelled. Was it like COVID or I don't know. All I've got here is Ladd withdrew on Tapology. I can't think back that far because I'm getting old as well myself.
But even just that, Josh, that's not a weight miss, but she withdrew from that fight. So even if we just take the weight misses out, there are also several fights where she's withdrawn before the weigh-in.
Yeah.
Well, the week before, a few days before, the day of the fight.
Sometimes these things happen, so I'm not going to shit on that part of it. But you've been in camp for a prolonged time now, I know obviously you're trying to peak and everything, but I mean, unless she made the weight cut and pulled out the day before, which I don't think that is what happened. Basically, you've effectively just kind of had longer to kind of be getting your weight down. It really shouldn't be an issue in the same way. I don't know what the fuck
To
she's doing.
clarify, sorry, I'm not saying
that
the other time she's pulled out, it's been because she wasn't going to make weight. But what I'm saying is that it comes down to, there's an old saying in the NFL, the best ability you have is availability. And that is so fucking true in the fight game, because if you can't show up to fight, you don't get paid, your career doesn't move forward, and they don't look at you as a reliable person. You know, Hamza misses by £8. Okay, Hamza is their future cash cow. He's their prodigal child that they think is going to take them back into McGregor-like pay-per-view numbers. So he's got money in the bank. You're coming off, I mean, I'll bring up her record now, but she's not coming off a win streak, I can tell you that much.
No, she's lost her two most recent fights in 3 of 4. I'm looking through it. There is, so taking off the Sarah McMahon ones, Aldana pulled out of their fight. Chasson pulled out the first time, but then Lads did botched weight cut. That's why it was cancelled the second time. Against
already
McMahon,
pulled out once Sarah McMahon.
Yeah, that was a knee injury though. That was fair enough. Holly Holm pulled out of their fight. Again, Leslie Smith missed weight. Pena pulled out of that fight due to an injury. And Jessica Down Ladd, illness 2017. I can't remember what that caused, but sometimes illness is a synonym for botched weight cut.
Yeah. It's either way, we're looking at, I know not all of these are her fault, but it's still.
And most of those are weight related issues.
And also, even the two most recent ones that happened, Pennington versus Ladd, that was a catch weight fight. They've got it listed as bantamweight. I know for a fact that was a catch weight fight organised before, and the Norma Dumont ended up being at featherweight.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what to say. I don't like to talk about people losing their jobs, but if she is not cut by tomorrow, so we record this on a Monday, the UFC do all of their meetings about rankings, rosters, fight making, all that kind of stuff on a Tuesday. If she is still on the UFC roster by Tuesday evening, I'll be amazed. And I hate to say that, but it gets to the point where you can't, it's not fair to the people that you book to fight her.
Yeah. Because why would you want to take that fight? Because you don't even know if you're going to get an opportunity to earn your win money, to earn a bonus. You put yourself through a lot of wear and tear through camp. You're going to risk all of those injuries and take more time basically off your career's kind of ticking time clock for an athlete that may not even be responsible enough to put you in a position where the fight goes ahead. Or even worse, put you in a position where you have to consider allowing her to miss weight. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. And then she still does have some difficult wrestling chops that you have to deal with, which is even harder to do with an oversized opponent. So I feel like Aspen Ladd is just going to be one of those sad stories of a prospect with so much talent, so much, projected ability and potential. And we're not just going to see that not come to fruition in the cage. We're going to see it not come to fruition without her even stepping into the cage half the time.
Yeah. Fuck her.
Fuck her. Who cares? This card only needed 13 fights anyway. 14 was far too many.
Well, 12.
And then
we got 12, let's be honest.
12. Yeah, to be fair, I'll give you that. News, pretty much most of the news is about Jose Aldo retiring, and obviously breakdowns of everything that's happened from UFC 60, which we've already discussed. There was some boxing, though. It was not fun to watch, but we'll touch on this very briefly. I'm sure you didn't watch the highlights, but you have seen the results between Triple G and Canelo?
Well, yes, also didn't even need to. Already knew. First fight, very close. Personally feel Triple G won. Second
Most
fight,
people do.
less close. But this is one man declining and one man peaking. Still two of the most dangerous guys in the world around that weight class. But, the first fight was the one. And this fight, needless. How old's Triple G now? 40?
40. The
And
first two fights, both men are in their prime. This was an old man, not an old man, but a man out of his prime, being beaten by a guy who's still in his prime. And the only reason they put this fight together is because it's a good seller after Canelo's in the loss column, and it erases the dodginess of the first two in their minds. They can go, if anybody tries to say, oh, did he really win those first two? They can go, yeah, but he really beat him in that third one. Nobody argues with that.
yeah, yeah, it's I don't like boxing that much sometimes. It's kind of bullshit.
Nah, it's a bullshit fight. It never should have been booked. It should have been booked, but it should have been booked back in 2019. 3 years too late. And here's the thing as well. This is where the real corruption of boxing is such a shame. By robbing what, in many people's eyes, the result should have been in the first one, you've ended up denying a potentially truly great trilogy. Because you could argue that Canelo won that second one fair and square. And if they're 1-1 after those first two fights, they do that trilogy fight in 2019 with both guys still at their peak, still in their prime, and you get one of the greatest boxing trilogies of all time. Instead, they rob him the first time with the draw. They kind of screw him the second time, but okay, it's a little bit closer. And then the third just becomes a way to save face and cover up for dodgy deeds of the past.
Yeah, he did Triple G dirty there. Yeah, fuck it.
It is what it is. That's why we like MMA.
Nice to make bank. Shame you have to do it against Canelo, but it's nice to make bank. And there's a lot of respect between the two fighters, so I'm sure Triple G didn't mind having that fight.
No, his last big paycheck, I suppose. You can't blame the guy. And he still fought well. He went 8-8 down the stretch. It's just that he lost the first 4 rounds pretty conclusively. On that note, I think that's our podcast for today. No pick show or preview show because there is no UFC coming up this weekend, but we will be back next week for a non-MMA show or an NMA show, as well as I believe a pick show or a preview show for some Bellator. I think Josh has got
let's do the recap for Bellator. I think that'd be nice. We've got Bellator Dublin, Bendo taking on Queally. I suppose if Queally wins this, maybe they do the trilogy with Patricky. I don't really know. Lightweight's a bit of a weird one at Bellator at the moment, but obviously a big Peter Queally fan. It's on at a normal fucking time for us, which is going to be beautiful.
Always helps.
Love Benson Henderson. Smooth Henderson is just phenomenal. And, he stopped fighting with the toothpick down his throat. The only reason he stopped is because it suddenly occurred to him he was worried that other kids were going to start emulating that. And you were going to wind up with a lot of dead kids trying to do a bendo.
That's a weird way to get to correct logic, but I'll take it.
Yeah, he's such a cheeky bastard. Smooth as fuck, though.
So next week we can do non-MMA stuff. We can do some Bellator stuff. We can wrap that all into one episode. How are you getting on with Rings of Power and House of the Dragon? Have you watched enough that we could talk some bullshit about that?
No. Kate keeps starting and not finishing and rewatching the first episode of Rings of Power, so I'm waiting for her to catch up. And I'm an episode behind on House of the Dragon, so
fair enough. I don't blame her for struggling to get through the first episode of Rings of Power.
I do. I was enjoying it. I've got about 5 or 10 minutes left in that episode, and it's killing me. I just want to watch it.
Fair enough. You enjoy everything, though. You're literally like a television and movie studio. Is perfect.
I manage my expectations a lot more effectively than the average person. Like, I know something's going to be shit, so I can enjoy it. And other people are like, I don't understand why this wasn't the best thing ever made. It's like, that very infrequently happens. It just very infrequently
doesn't need to be the best thing ever made. It just needs to be objectively good and consistent to what it's trying to do. We can talk about all of that.
Very rarely happens in any art form.
It should happen more. And the reasons it's not happening for me in certain things, I can't wait for you to watch more of so I can talk about.
All right.
But for now, we will bid you adieu. So guys, thanks for watching. As always, leave a like on the video. Sorry, mystery dude that left the comment. I feel bad. I shat on you a little bit for your thing. Please feel free to leave more negative comments. We literally ask them, and I won't talk about them directly on the show anymore. Bye, Dave. Bye, Laurie. Bye, Trifo.
Bye, Laurie. Bye, Dave. I'm still going to bring the comments up. I'm shameless, though.
That's your prerogative.
Later, guys.